This is Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and we are talking to Jim Stone. Jim is going to give his own introduction as to who he is, other than to say that I have done a radio show with him previously. He is an NSA whistleblower, and we are having some connection problems as usual. Apparently, there are some interference, but we are going to try to prevail here, and perhaps things will get better as we go along. Right now, your video is working, Jim, so why don't you go ahead and say hello to everyone.
Hi, I'm Jim Stone, and I guess I've been called an NSA whistleblower by several people. It needs to be kind of cleared up because I don't actually work for the NSA anymore, so I really can't be a whistleblower in that sense. I'm really good at finding problems in things. I know how to study things out, and that's pretty much what my NSA background is. That's all it can really add up to as far as I don't have an inside track with anything as far as the NSA goes. I've been away from them for over a decade. What I really got from the NSA was the ability to troubleshoot out problems in just about any system. And after working for the NSA, I went into industrial electrical, the PLCs and the automated control systems, and I worked with industrial processes that were similar to what you would have in a nuclear plant with the cooling pumps and things like this. And because of that, I knew that Fukushima was impossible. And I started looking for answers, and I came up with quite a few.
Okay, but can you at least give, because some of the people listening now will not know your background at the NSA, and just so you understand the Camelot definition of whistleblower, we talk about whistleblowers as being whistleblowers from the Matrix, telling the truth on what's really going on.
Okay. Well, I guess he's...
You would qualify in that regard.
Okay. Well, okay. Things are really, really breaking up, so I can't really hear what you're saying, so I'm just going to have to kind of guess. In the NSA, I worked in electronic warfare. I was one of the very top people. Obviously, everybody in an agency like that has a compartmentalized clearance. I had a lot more access than most. My education was at a very, very high level. To the point where I was in 200 for the type of individual I was in the NSA, which means that well beyond the people that listen to Morse code and run the sonographs and things like this, I was well beyond that. And so I have a really, really solid technical background.
Okay.
So, and then...
Are you able to hear me at all?
It's very, very, it breaks up a lot, and it just seems like it's hit and miss.
Okay, I'm going to try one other thing over here because I've got more than one program going on.
So if I'm clear, then we could probably just cut to the Fukushima thing, and I'll just start talking.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be a little strange if you can't hear me, but we'll try it this way. Go ahead.
Okay, well, if you go to my website, it's jimstonefreelance.com. I have all the links that I'm going to be referencing on the front page. What we have here with Fukushima and with the Japan quake, also there's another article on my website done by another investigator. His name is Joe Vials, with regard to the Indonesia tsunami, and also there's another article on my website with regard to the Mexico quake. We have 3 events here which are pretty obviously man-made. And one of the main points that I want to get across is that people come down to the whole idea of terrorists doing terror attacks. About false flag terror in the name of Arabs, or in the name of a nutcase, or vice versa. People caught on to the whole false flag thing. And so the elite switched modes. When when they stage disasters, they want to have the effect that they want on the public. So they have entered a new era of warfare and false flag terror, which involves the environment. A lot of people think Katrina was harped up on my website. I have an article on that front page linked on the right sidebar where it says a published article called Electric Hurricanes, talking about all the strange electrical readings inside Katrina. Then we have the Japan quake, which actually maxed out at a 6.67 on the Richter scale, producing the tsunami of a 9.0. We had a Mexico quake that happened on the 20th that coincided perfectly with an earthquake drill that matched the exact same scenario. So what we have now is, and it's especially important to know this going into the 2012 thing, the elite definitely have a way to trigger earthquakes. This is covered in a briefing by Defense Secretary William Cohen. So that's the point and the route that I want to go down. Let's just get started. I'm going to go to my page here so I can help you through the links.
Okay, so give people the URL if you can hear me. It is
yep.
gemstonefreelance.com.
Gemstonefreelance.com. Gemstonefreelance.com. And the very first thing I want you to click on as a first link is vanished reactor. You'll have a little diagram of the Fukushima and how it's set up, and then to the right of that, we can see the destroyed reactor. As you can see from the graphs that I presented on the site, and there's actually one that's a little bit more clear than that. If we go back and you click the link on the front that says Fukushima, right at the very top, it's a big bold link that says Fukushima from the front. If you click on that, you'll get a high-resolution picture of Fukushima. And then expand that link. Expand the picture so you can see it. As you can see, they've been talking about temperatures and pressures from reactor 3, and reactor 3 is gone. What we have here, what happened was, it could happen as a malfunction. Oh gosh, I need to pull back here. Gosh, for some reason I lost this time. If we go to,
okay,
you need to hit that first picture again and scroll all the way down to the bottom. There's a security firm hired to do security at Magna BSP. At Fukushima called Magna BSP. They were operating out of Israel, and they got into Fukushima cameras that were exactly the size and shape of gun-type nuclear weapons. They split for Fukushima. They split for Israel a week before Fukushima happened. They acknowledged in the Jerusalem Post that they had a full-time connection into the reactor rooms of Fukushima. These cameras, the disaster, and they could act at will. Knows anything about nuclear facilities to public, and they got the reactor room right next to the reactors. Were able to detect radiation. They were able to detect the heat. They were able to detect the status of that reactor. Now, oh my goodness, this is not.
Okay, are you having trouble hearing yourself, or what's going on at your end?
Well, I'm in presentation.
I'm sorry?
The other program. I'm just having troubles here. So,
You're having trouble with your website? Are you talking about that? Jim, can you hear me? Okay, it looks like we might have lost the connection with Jim. The suggestion is to turn off the video. Hold on a second. Hi, Jim.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
If
we decided that if the video starts taking too much bandwidth, then just turn it off at your end. There will be more bandwidth for the sound.
It isn't the bandwidth. It's the issue that a very strong connection keeps dropping to zero. I don't know what the deal is here. It's really
okay. Well, this is kind of
really a distraction. Okay, the main point that I want to make with the whole Fukushima issue is are you there?
Yes.
Okay. If you look at the picture that says Fukushima from the front, and you look at this reactor that's no longer there, I have a big paragraph up here that says one very important point. Reactor 3, which is obviously missing, is still giving normal temperature and pressure readings to the control room. This would not be possible absent a controller that was infected with Israel's precious Stuxnet virus, which keeps all readouts normal both until and after everything is destroyed or blown away. This is another reason why they won't show you this picture. If you've looked around the web and you've really kept on top of the Fukushima issue, one question is why on earth, if these pictures that I have here have existed since March 20th, why haven't they shown these to the public? What are they trying to cover up here? The reason why they're not showing these to the public is because they blow the official story away. You cannot have temperature and pressure readings and stuck valves on a reactor that doesn't even exist. And this virus that fakes normal temperature and pressure readings, it's called the Stuxnet virus. It was used to take out Iran's nuclear program as well. Fortunately for Iran, they didn't have a functioning reactor at the time, but it caused mayhem in their reactor systems. It wrecked several centrifuges, but they were able to recover from it because they figured out what was going on. There's the next picture that I want you to hit. It says Fukushima from the top. And there's a very, very important point here also. Reactor 4 had been defueled and was not in operation when it exploded. And the media and a lot of the alternative media got on the bandwagon, and they said, well, that just means that they're using Reactor 4 to enrich plutonium. And as it wasn't shut down at all. Well, this picture, which they're refusing to show anyone, if you look on the upper right-hand corner, there's hold on, I got to get this so I can scroll it. So I can read it. If you look here, it said TEPCO stated that Reactor 4 was defueled and had no core in it. It was undergoing replacement of its internal shroud. I said all the wackos because really that's what it amounts to. Said it was enriching plutonium because it blew up. This picture clearly shows, and the first arrow points to the reactor dome. It's sitting in the service area with the jib from the service crane attached. In other words, there's something they attached to the dome so that the crane could pull it off the reactor. That device, which they attached to the dome so that the crane could lift that dome off the reactor, is attached to that dome. And no one snuck into that facility later and put that on there with the radiation readings the way they were. This is the way that thing was set up when it exploded. This proves that Reactor 4 could not possibly have been in operation when it exploded. Picture number 2, you can look straight down the throat of the empty reactor. There is no core in this reactor. TEPCO said that there was a lining on the inside of the reactor that they had to replace. stainless steel lining. In America, what they'll do is they'll weld these. They'll get stress cracks in them, and they'll weld them and they'll stick them back inside the reactor because they're not really critical for safety. Other than, well, there's a possibility they can make a couple of the fuel rods stick, but it's not really that big of a deal. When you got a massive reactor. The TEPCO actually was a very safety conscious company. So rather than weld the internal shroud, weld the cracks in it, they replaced them outright. And from this picture, you can clearly see that this reactor is disassembled. There's no way that this reactor could have exploded, yet it exploded anyway. This is Fukushima's Building 7 on 9/11. Everybody, many of the people in the truth movement know that Building 7 blew up and it wasn't even hit by a plane. Well, here we have Reactor 4 blew up and it wasn't even in operation. How did this happen? It's impossible. So,
okay, so just, are you able to hear me at this point?
Yes, I'm able to hear you.
Okay, very good. So what we're talking about here is we're covering some of the ground that we've already covered in my radio show, and I do want to move on from there, but I do want to focus people on understanding that what you're saying is that the Stuxnet virus, basically, the control that Stuxnet allowed the, I guess the Israelis who are operating it is the assumption, I assume.
Yes, that was only true of reactors 1, 2, and 3. 4, it was off. The Stuxnet had nothing to do with this.
So, but what about the triggering the explosion? You're saying Stuxnet?
It could. When you look at the link number 1, what I have there on link number 1, that's down on the page, it has it starts out with a diagram of Fukushima. I mean, with a diagram of reactor 3. It says vanished reactor. If you scroll down to the bottom of this picture, you'll see that you'll see a diagram of a gun-type nuclear weapon. Magna BSP manufactured a product called the Owl. The Owl is a stereoscopic camera that can look out for miles and sense depth perception and know exactly how far out something is when it's moving. It's actually a brilliant piece of work. However, what they did for inside the facility is they made really crude mock-ups. This type of a camera is completely inappropriate inside a facility where your distances are short. There's other smaller stereoscopic cameras that are far more appropriate. What we have here with Magna BSP's Owl is a camera that is sized and shaped exactly like a gun-type nuclear weapon. So what happened here, and the way that reactor 4 exploded, was they managed to get these into reactors 3 and reactors 4.
When you say these, you're talking, wait 1 second. What are you talking about? They were able to get what? The Stuxnet, the cameras? Is that what you're saying?
The cameras. What happened out at Fukushima is they used the virus to present a plausible scenario for having a reactor explosion. They caused all kinds of mayhem out there, and the virus, of course, will report back and tell you exactly what the condition of the reactor is, via their remote link that wasn't supposed to be going into that reactor room to begin with. They admitted to having it in the Jerusalem Post. It's not like a blurry UFO photo when it shows up in the Jerusalem Post. That that was a pretty grave admission that they had.
Okay, but what is the significance?
To provide plausibility, they set it off. That's the bottom line.
Okay,
and it had to.
Okay, but when you say the camera is like a gun type of nuclear bomb, are you saying that the camera was a bomb?
It was a bomb.
Interesting.
It had to. These cameras weighed 1,000 pounds. If you look at them, if you look at the bottom here, I've got. If you go into the article "Nuclear Blackmail," I've got a very, very clear picture of one of these cameras up against the side of a building.
Yeah, we've got that on the screen.
Okay.
I guess you're calling this the BSP Owl?
It's Magna BSP's Owl.
Okay, yes, we've got that on the screen.
And OWL stands for optical watch line. I mean, that's their acronym for it. this Magna BSP secured a security contract 4 months after Japan offered to enrich uranium for Iran. This is the motive for getting these things into Fukushima. Anybody who's helping Iran is going to be much of an enemy to Israel as Iran is. Israel does not want that nuclear program going online. And also there's some other spurious things where Japan's culture is really hard to break. And I don't know if you understand anything about what the Zionists want for the world, but they want this great big monoculture where everybody's just stuck in one mode so that everybody's easy to control. Japan was really hard to break. They needed a major disaster in that country to break the will of the people and to get them to start walking down a path that was predictable and controllable. Japan was pretty much a loose gun. I mean, South Korea is another one that's pretty much a loose gun, but that's besides the point.
Okay, in terms of this story, because what we want to do is widen the story a bit this time around, as you can appreciate. And I will refer everyone to go listen to the radio show we did, which is on my site.
Yeah,
it was
on YouTube. Much better. I did a much better job on that radio show.
Well, we covered this in detail. You're just starting out here, and we barely grazed the surface of the topics that we really want to cover here. So what I'd like to do is turn this around to first of all, I want to ask you about the San Onofre plant. If you're aware that it has now been closed down after a temporary close sometime in the month, I believe it was January, late January, when they closed it, initially saying there was a leak. Now San Onofre, which is down by San Diego or on the way to San Diego, has been closed indefinitely, and people are absolutely extremely concerned about this. And what my question is does this sound as though this may be a sort of a Stuxnet situation?
Well, what has happened is it was confirmed that Stuxnet made it to America. Stuxnet infects the Siemens SCADA controller. This stands for Supervisory Data and Control Acquisition. It's just an acronym for a really advanced industrial control system that can report back to a remote computer in the control room, show everybody the status of what's going on. You write the programs for it on a PC and then upload them to your controller via flash drive. What Stuxnet is designed to do is get onto flash drives and be spread by flash drives. At least that's the way it was designed to begin with. When it's on like a laptop or something like this, it doesn't affect the laptop at all. And when you plug another flash drive into it, it will infect that flash drive and wait to get passed on to another laptop. Well, this is just the infection method. There's no reason why this couldn't have been turned into like a regular email virus, where it spreads that way and gets onto all these computers, and then the guy sits down at his workstation in a facility, writes his program for his controller, sticks his flash drive into his computer. Stuxnet goes to the flash drive, goes to the program goes to the flash drive, and he plugs that into his controller, and bam! Now another nuclear facility is infected. 70% of America's nuclear facilities switched over to the Siemens SCADA system and can be affected by the Stuxnet virus. The same thing that took out Fukushima.
Okay, great. And my question is, do you happen to know if San Onofre is one of those plants?
I didn't. It's really hard to get information specifically on a nuclear plant to find out exactly what control system they have. But I would say that with all the troubles that we're having with our nuclear facilities now, and the fact that it is 7% of them have that Siemens system, it looks pretty suspicious. I think it's more than a coincidence.
Okay, well, for the researchers that are listening to this, anyone who wants to investigate that and find out for sure, one way or the other, whether the San Onofre plant and also the plant close to Chicago that they've been having some trouble with, find out whether both of those are using what you call the Siemens
SCADA system.
Okay.
It's the SCADA SC80A. Now, one myth that I need to do away with is that a lot of people have said that, oh, well, these nuclear facilities, they're built in such a way where they never get any new controls. It's all just an enclosed system. The nuclear facilities get updated the same as any other facility. When some new toy comes out, it goes into the nuclear facility because it's a better way, a more efficient way of doing it. The Siemens Scottish system was so excellent that it ended up going everywhere. It's in the oil refineries, it's in the nuclear facilities, it's in the steel mills, it's everywhere. You know, a shoe factory is a very programmable, very flexible system.
Okay.
Now, Siemens, after Fukushima, pulled completely out of the nuclear business. Now, if they were the main supplier of nuclear control systems, you know, 70% of America's plants have them, that makes them the main supplier then. What happened at Fukushima that made them decide to get out of the business? That's a real hard question to be asked.
Another question to ask is that if your supplier gets out of the business, but you've still got their equipment, how do you deal with that?
Oh, you just put in new equipment. Put in an Allen Bradley controller. It's no big deal.
It's no big deal. So
No. You just reprogram another controller and put it in.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, with a nuclear facility, it's not going to be that straightforward. It's going to take, you know, years of making sure that things are running right. But it's really not that big a deal. These plants were not dependent upon that particular PLC. You know, it was nice to have, but there's alternatives out there.
Okay, there may be alternatives, but if you've got a plant that's already in trouble using Siemens, do you see my point?
You know, it all depends upon what the troubles are. If they triggered a meltdown or a radiation leak, you're doomed. It's over. Yeah, you aren't going to go in there and fix that.
Okay. So is your position that Fukushima is going to melt down no matter what?
Well, I have no idea. It all depends. What I really think, you know, and there's no way to really prove this, is that they have this virus set up to violate all the security. So this virus communicates out to the PC in the control room. If there's any Wi-Fi or any way that it can jump out there, it'll jump out onto the internet and then log on and say, this is another option somewhere in Dimona, you know, somewhere under the sands in the Dimona region of Israel or wherever they're, you know, or anywhere else. You know, I mean, who knows Mr. It from? It doesn't have to be Dimona. It can be pretty much anywhere. You know, once you're online and you know what's infected and where it is, it's not going to be that hard to control it from anywhere.
Okay, but one would assume that if you have a power plant under your control, even if you're in Japan or elsewhere, and this has happened, they must have identified, just as you are doing, that the Stuxnet virus was responsible and that Israel had control. They must have gone in and dismantled that control on some level at this point.
You know, the problem is that Fukushima is so destroyed. That's another thing. Here is a big issue. I think that the people out of Fukushima are being lied to. They are still saying that there is pressure and temperature inside reactor 3 when you can clearly see it's not even there. At the very best, reactor 3 has broken loose and fallen down inside the torus. You can see the torus, that round torus-shaped thing that's underneath the reactor on that first diagram. That reactor is not sitting the way it should. And it might be wishful thinking when you can look at it and obviously see that the temperature and pressures can't be there. What if, my thoughts is that the Japanese people are still in the dark. The people at Fukushima are still in the dark. They cannot get into that facility to even check it physically because, today I just saw a report at 70 sieverts an hour. 70 sieverts an hour means that you walk into that reactor room, you're going to be dead in 5 minutes. You can't go in there and check on a controller. You can't go in there and check on anything. They cannot get in there. They just got to trust whatever readings they're getting. And if the readings they're getting are being faked by a virus, there's nothing they can do about it except trust. They're in a hopeless situation.
I hear you. So you've alluded to the idea that Japan. This was sort of a warning shot. A very severe warning shot. At Japan because they were going to help Iran. I mean, what is your understanding of how politically Japan is going to deal with such a warning?
I don't think that there's so many there's so many aspects to this. There's a financial side of it. Today, Japan pledged 10 trillion U.S. dollars to some global relief fund. Japan can't do that. What's going on there? Do they have this virus in other facilities and they're threatening to blow them up? Japan cannot just sit down and plunk out $10 trillion. They are being held under threat. Able Danger, there's a website, an investigative website called abledanger.net that covered the first banker bailout out of Japan, and tied it to the Fukushima incident. This gets into the article Nuclear Blackmail, where it's so noisy here, I'm really getting distracted. But what I believe has happened is this virus has gotten into enough locations, and Israel has managed to smuggle enough nukes into foreign countries, into enough locations, so that they can force any country to do anything they want. Provide any banker bailout, provide any cash payout, and if you don't, we're going to blow you up. If you don't, this nuclear facility is going up in smoke. If you don't, we're going to set off a nuclear weapon in the ocean and trigger a tsunami and wipe out, whatever city. This is the only explanation for why Japan is not showing the world and telling the world, just even these pictures that are out there.
Okay, I'm sorry, you were breaking up right there. So I understand you're saying that there is basically a nuclear blackmail going on with Japan.
Nuclear blackmail going on right now in Japan, probably in America. As part of the Fukushima report, there's a lot up in that Fukushima report that I did not put in the report because it made it too complex. But I actually looked into the contracts that security company got. They got one in Brazil. Brazil did a banker bailout. They got one in America. America did a banker bailout. They got one in Germany. Germany got extorted out of all kinds of money. So, for four there, what is going on? Why are these countries doing these enormous bailouts that they clearly don't owe? They paid for every mortgage in the country, whether or not it was behind or not. It paid the value of every mortgage.
Okay, you're breaking up again. I'm sorry, Jim. Could you repeat that?
This doesn't make any sense. That money went just into the abyss. It didn't help America. It did the banker bailout.
Okay.
That 10 trillion banker bailout, I sat down and I did math. Every behind not came out to only $3 trillion. So why did they need $10 trillion? That's 3 times the value of every mortgage entry behind or not. And as far as the ones that were behind, it would have.
Jim,
it would have only taken less than $1 trillion radio. I'm on radio. Please, please just go. I'm on the radio. Go. I'm on the radio. I'm on the radio. Okay, so.
Okay, Jim.
Okay, I'm getting disturbed by somebody who's obviously drunk or something.
Oh, I see. Okay, could you? Is there a way that you could close down the browser, other than to close down your site so you're not looking at your website? I think that will save some bandwidth.
Once the web page is loaded, it doesn't need any bandwidth.
I see.
Let's see here.
Is there any other program? Because you are breaking up, I'm afraid.
Okay, what I can do is I can cancel the video portion of the call.
Okay, why don't we try that for a bit?
Like,
Let's close.
Okay, is it better now? Okay, let's close, and we'll just do audio.
Okay, all you do is turn your camera off at your end.
Okay, I'm not familiar with Skype.
Okay, I think you've done that.
Okay, am I more clear now? Am I more clear now?
It seems like you are. Let's continue and see how this goes without that. I will show pictures from your website so that people have something visual to look at.
Okay, what we had with the banker bailout is we had a $10 trillion bailout for a $3 trillion problem. The fact that it was so far overboard proves that it wasn't this that caused that bailout. There's another reason for the bailout. Didn't owe the bankers anything, and a couple of months after Fukushima, they paid the bankers $1.5 trillion. Now they're being forced to pay $10 trillion. Brazil didn't owe the bankers anything, and they did their bailout. Germany didn't owe the bankers anything, and they did their bailout. So why are all these countries around the world doing all these bailouts that they don't owe? This is a big question. Well, it turns out that those 4 countries also had security contracts from Magna BSP. Magna BSP got into them. And when we have, a picture of their cameras that matches a gun-type nuclear weapon, I think there's a pretty good answer for why these countries are behaving the way they are. Are you there?
Okay. Yes, we have some background.
I think we're hitting too much of a sensitive issue here, because I don't see why this is breaking up.
I understand. No, you're actually coming in a lot clearer right now. We were just having some background. I don't know. It sounded like kind of yelling in the background there. All right, fine. So at this point, what I'd like to do is also move over to the earthquake scenario, because you seem to have some information in regard to the triggering of earthquakes, not only associated with possibly Fukushima, but what's going on going forward, because there is a link up, as you know, between the sort of failure of the nuclear plants and earthquakes.
Yeah. So if you look on the far right-hand column of the website there, it says. First thing is what it looks like when my site gets attacked. The next link says Mexico quake proven man-made. If you click that link, there. As it turns out, in Mexico, there was a drill going on that matched the exact same scenario as the quake. If you scroll down, there's a graphic there. It says Simulacro, 20 March 2012. We're going to have a drill for earthquake, a 7.9 grade on the Richter scale in Chiapas. It turns out that at 12 o'clock on March 20th, they had a 7.6 at 12:02. This type of a coincidence matches the 7/7 bombings in the main bombings. It matches 9/11, which also had a drill going on that exactly matches scenario for 9/11. So here we have an earthquake drill, and all of a sudden the earthquake happens. Well, if you go to the Fukushima report, that's gemstonefreelance.com, Fukushima1.html. Also, you just click the link that says for the article that sparked a war between Macau and Rents. Just click that; it'll take you to it.
Okay.
If you scroll down the page below the links.
Right. Okay. What is that?
Nope. I wiped it by accident.
What is the?
Oh, here. Nope, it's right.
I'm sorry. Hello.
It is there. If you go, can you hear? Hello.
Yeah.
Hello?
You were breaking up. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, this is pretty crazy. Let's see here. I lost my focus now.
Okay, you were talking about why were we going to the article with Macau and Renz?
Well, because that's the Fukushima report. If you scroll down on the Fukushima report, you can see I've got all the original seismograms out of Japan that happened that day. And clearly that no 9.0 happened there at all. These are the seismograms straight out. It also shows that the earthquake was inland, not out at sea. The USGS even plotted the epicenter inland on the approach. With to show their land, and then stated that it occurred out at sea. The direct conflict with what he said. I was going to say report. There's a reference to an article at the military briefing with Defense Secretary William Cohen.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jim.
Right above the site that has the map. Okay.
Jim, I'm really sorry.
I'm going to try to get a better picture.
Yeah, people, we're not able to understand you. Your words are breaking up again. I'm really sorry, everyone, for the problems that we're having here. Jim is in Mexico. I'm not sure what the connection problem is.
Okay. I'm gonna state very clearly that this connection was tested multiple ways, and it only started acting up when this program started.
Right. This is a typical.
This is ridiculous.
We do have problems like this regardless, even when people are in the States, believe it or not.
Okay, I'm going to try to get reoriented here, and hopefully. But the thing is it's showing good strength. The connection is showing just fine strength.
Okay. You are a bit more clear. Maybe if you try to talk a little slower, it will be easier for people to follow.
Okay, let's just start over again. If you go to the article, it says on the top of the home page, it says, click here for the article to spark the war between Macau and Rents. So below the pictures of the tsunami, there's a great big blue link that said this military briefing, dated all the way back to 1997, shows that even then Cohen about EM weaponry that could trigger quakes and set off volcanoes. Now, one thing that's really important to know here is that when it's coming off the DoD website and it's a briefing with Defense Secretary Cohen, we're not talking about a blurry UFO photo. We're not talking about the one that got away. We're talking that it has been stated by our own Secretary of Defense that this stuff existed. And not just, recently, this is over. And so when you couple that with the fact that this quake in Mexico lined up perfectly with a drill, figure the odds of that happening.
Absolutely.
I don't believe it for a minute. I think that I can't hear you.
Okay, yeah, you're still breaking up at my end. We're hearing bits and pieces of your phrases. I'm really wondering whether we can continue this at this moment. I'm sort of at a loss as to what to do because maybe if we change topics and see if we can move into a slightly different topic and then come back and see if it's the topic that is being targeted or whether it's the entire show.
It's too bad, but there is the other program in archives, which means that that's already out. I'm using my face to go through this stuff. But let's move on to 2012. When I was a kid, I was an astronomy buff, the galactic rotation and all this other stuff. And I'm just going to state, frankly, bluntly, is no different than the end of our own calendar in the year 2000. It's just a number that we're rolling over. It means nothing. But if the elite can convince the people that there's some great big mythical thing about this, then they can use their earthquake machine to split the New Madrid. They can use their earthquake machine to, or they can set off volcanoes. They can use nuclear weapons in the ocean to set off tsunamis, and then say, well, this is all 2012. Well, this is all in prophecy, and they can bring the world to its knees if the world is ignorant about the threats and the possibilities. The elite now have the ability to play God. That's what it boils down to. They have the ability to play God and create as much mayhem as they want. This March quake is a cornerstone for the truth. This Mexico quake being proven man-made and coinciding with a drill, this needs to be spread far and wide. The Fukushima photos need to be spread far and wide. Why on earth haven't they spoken about this? Why on earth haven't they talked about this? The elite handed us a whole big box of razor-sharp knives to go out and cut into pieces with. And they did it because they didn't have the foresight to realize that somebody was going to be able to figure out that there was a drill in Mexico that matched that quake. They didn't figure that somebody was going to get classified photos out of Fukushima that showed that their story was bogus. They didn't figure that somebody would sit down and do the research needed to get the seismograms out of Japan that proved the quake never happened, and then draw the connection between no damage from a 9.0 and a monster tsunami coming in.
Okay, well, let me ask you this.
They've been caught with their pants down big time on this one. People need to hop on it and pound it home before they do start causing these disasters in 2012.
Okay, but Jim, you're saying that they didn't plan on these things being discovered. I would actually like to counter that with the idea that's quite possible they do plan on this being discovered, but they actually don't care.
Well, the thing is that when I first my site before this Fukushima report was like a cornerstone of the web. 7,000 different websites were using my pictures. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can see I've got a major photography section down there. There were 7,000 sites using my pictures. And as soon as I posted the Fukushima report, I had like top tier. I was like a content, like infrastructure type site. So anything I posted went right to the top on Google immediately. And when I posted that Fukushima report, it went right to the top on Google, and I was getting like 50,000 hits an hour on it. It lasted for 2 hours and died. They cut it off and they cut the website off. Now, if they're planning on getting this, having people know this story, why would they have sabotaged a site like that?
Well, simply because they're playing a game that I mean, if you worked at the NSA, you must be familiar with the whole disinfo game and the playing both sides.
Actually,
aspects.
The NSA doesn't deal with disinfo. They're a listening agency.
Okay.
They have nothing to do with like psyops or anything like that. They're just a straight. They're just the eyes and ears. That's it. They're no brain there. It's just eyes, data input. That's it. Data input, decryption. Tell me where this guy is so that I can do this. You know, they report to the other agencies.
All right. Well, then let's focus on the other agencies for that matter. But the point being is that do you understand the game being played? And you must be familiar with the Illuminati and their sort of plans for the future.
Yeah, but that stuff is never discussed at the NSA.
Well,
that's like off another planet for them.
I hear you, but nonetheless, when you were asking the question as to whether or not, why is it they took your site down, and obviously they're going to be targeting, they are targeting, I mean, this broadcast is one example, only one example of multiple examples that we have in this regard, and that the alternative media is constantly being messed with, but that doesn't mean they don't, to some degree, anticipate that they're going to get a backlash. And that at this point, people are going to be hip to what's going on. I don't think that there's much going on out there that's not going to be analyzed instantly and seen from the opposite point of view, regardless of what happens. What we need to do here, though, is you have a point of view on 2012 and beyond, and that is, I assume, something to do with your personal point of view. But what I wanted you to do was wrap that into anything that you had heard at the NSA, anything you have heard in your travels to do with the investigations that you've done, and what might be planned for 2012.
Well, 2012 has nothing to do with the NSA. I mean, there's such a it's just a total gap. There's nothing there. Nothing I did at the NSA had anything to do with that.
Okay, and have you had any exposure to other agents at other agencies during your time there or afterwards?
We were just, we had to get a black box, have the manual for it, fix it. We got a black box from here, fix it. We need this for this. We need that for that. Get it going. Make sure that this is running. Calibrate that. That's the type of job I did. It was not. Had nothing to do with any kind of a psyop or any kind of secrets beyond just the hardware.
Okay, and yet what it appears is that they have been targeting you to some degree, and that you have uncovered, partly because of your background at the NSA, I take it, this situation that's going on, right?
Oh, with the training that I got at the NSA. It was a really high-level training, which means that you get something, and no matter how complex it is, sight unseen, you can sit down and you know everything about it in 20 minutes, and you can do a calibration and fix it and get it out the door right now, and it doesn't matter what the box is. Well, that is where, with that kind of electronic knowledge and that kind of an engineering knowledge, that is where I really, really was able to decipher what happened out at Fukushima. Because I knew well enough how nuclear facilities were designed. Fukushima was designed in such a way that if all the generators had failed completely and been removed from the site, it should have just gone into a backup mode where steam from the reactor itself, rather than generate electricity, that steam that would have gone to generate electricity would have been diverted and to run the cooling pumps. There's no way that facility could have exploded. There's no way they could have had an ounce of trouble. Early on, people were saying, well, the thing blew up because the tsunami wrecked the heat exchanger out in the ocean. Nope, it turns out that heat exchanger is in perfect condition. Nothing at all happened to it. So why did we have these backup cooling systems, which are in the main Fukushima article, all the way down at the bottom of the page? I've got all the graphics for this. There is no way Fukushima could have happened. You could have taken that facility, jerked it off the ground, and thrown it to the bottom of the Japan Trench, and it would have run and been perfectly safe until it rusted through. That's the way Fukushima was designed.
Okay, so what we're talking about is sabotage, and I do understand that. And that does match the whistleblower testimony I've gotten on that. But beyond that, if you look at the situation as to what's going on out there and your understanding, for example, do you look at the BP oil spill and whether Stuxnet was involved with that?
Okay, there's another thing. I actually investigated the BP oil spill, and I don't think that I have any of those pictures up on the site yet. But that is an enormous can of worms. That was sabotage. It wasn't. I can't get into it because I don't want to say anything unless people can just click on it and go there and see what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, I think you have to use this. You should use this platform as a potential to begin to talk about what it is you may have found in this regard, and then when you do publish,
I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it, and I'll post a report like in some point in the near future. It's nowhere near done. I never really did all the detail on the BP oil spill like I did on Fukushima. At Fukushima, I spent 500 hours on that report, or more. I don't know how many. It was like just an unbelievable effort. Excuse me. And in order to really get to the bottom of the BP oil spill, a similar effort is going to have to be made. But from what I can see, in a video that I got, it looked to me like someone used the helipad as a target. They you go through and you look at the pictures of that deep water horizon as it's going down, you will see a very, very, very clean burn mark through the helipad as if a laser burned it. Now, if you were going to sight in a laser from outer space to cut through a pipe, a critical pipe, on an oil platform, you probably would want it to work on the first try. Well, if you want it to work on the first try, you got to take in your atmosphere, you got to take in all this other stuff that can affect that beam. You need something to sight it in on. What better than the helipad? And there was a video that I got early on. I don't know if I saved it or not, of people out in a boat, and they were just out. You know, the Caribbean's a nice place. They were just out there playing around, filming at night on their yacht. And the Deepwater Horizon was in the background. And clearly, in that video that they were shooting, you can see a beam come down, a beam of light come down and hit the helipad. And then they were like, oh, what was that? Oh, that was... They were just gasping, and then they were like back to their beer and filming the party and everything else. And all of a sudden, boom, the facility blew up, and then their camera went back to it.
So what would you say? Do you understand what that might have been? That beam from outer space? Do you understand?
I think that they probably used a satellite and blew the thing up. That's what I honestly think.
Okay.
You know, if you saw the picture of the helipad, I mean, it is so obvious that thing was cut by something.
All right, but also I have a lot of whistleblower testimony along these lines, and apparently that situation down there is still not cleaned up, and it is still volatile. Have you heard or investigated anything about what went on underground?
Well, all I know is that they pumped the mud down there, and then I stopped paying attention to it. They said it was stopped, and we weren't seeing tremendous slick anymore, and I just, you know, some people were saying, well, that's just because they're pumping core exit in. But, you know, I mean, if you don't have the slick on the surface anymore and you don't really have anything to you know, I just, you know, I haven't paid attention to that.
Okay. Well, let me just say that it would be valuable if you were to continue your research in that direction.
Well, that is a future investigation I had planned to do. I've got all the pictures. I've got all the goods as far as that goes. I just need to assemble it in a sensible way.
Okay. Now, beyond Fukushima, have you looked into any other sort of anomalous events that have been going on either in the United States or anywhere else in the world? I see you talk about something to do with Jenin
oh well, Jenin happened years and years ago. That happened in the wake of 9/11. That's old news.
I understand that, but nonetheless, research is research, and bringing out the truth in any of these areas is valuable. What I'm trying to do with you is to find out where your other investigations have gone beyond Fukushima. If you have connected any dots, and begin to look at a pattern here. I saw that you basically were talking about
the pattern is false flag terror in the name of the environment, and false flag terror in the name of wackos and in the name of Arabs, so that we can strengthen the police state and the nanny state and the New World Order, and all the false flag stuff boils down to giving the elite more power. It boils down to losing freedom. It boils down to so many different things. Even if you go on the right-hand column, there's the article, Joe did not stack up. Do you know that guy that flew his plane into the federal building, his plane only weighed a little over 1,000 pounds. It weighed as much as a Smart for 2, less than a Smart for 2, one of those little teeny tiny cars, and it only went 130 miles an hour. If you click on the link, Joe did not stack up, you can see that out of the front of that federal building, we've got several feet of debris blown out across the lawn and 3 lanes of traffic. There's no way that Joe Stack's plane did that. That building was rigged to explode to begin with. You scroll further down, there's a picture of the plane, there's a picture of the fire, and then there's a picture of the wrecked plane, and you pull it out of the rubble. There is not a single burn mark on that plane. This is another false flag that everyone missed. It's so obviously, and there's a reason why they bagged this story. The media was all over Joe Stack, and then they backed off. They backed off right away. Well, it's because that was one particular false flag that was very poorly implemented, and it was really easy to figure out what happened there. So they didn't want it in the press.
Okay, but what was the purpose of that?
You know, I don't know what the purpose was because it backfired so fast that they didn't make use of it.
I see.
In order to know what the purpose is, you got to figure out, you know, you have to look at what happened afterwards. You know, after 9/11, we got the Patriot Act. We got all this. We got the Department of Homeland Security. We got all these other things that wrecked the Constitution. Well, after Joe Stack, we got nothing. We had nothing happen. They just bagged it. It was too big of a blunder. It was too obvious.
Okay, in other words, when you say it was too big of a blunder, meaning because people were able to discern the fact that it was manufactured?
Well, they didn't want people discerning the fact because when you've got, you know, that Piper plane weighing 1,000 pounds blowing, you know, 30,000, 40,000 pounds of debris out of a building when it couldn't have even impacted that building as much as a Ford Mustang or as much as a Honda CRX. You know, it's such an obvious false flag that they didn't want it, you know, getting any roots or getting any legs to run on. It was such an obvious false flag that it amounted to a mess up.
Okay, well, how can you translate this? Because basically, you're calling this a false flag. There's nothing obvious about it being at least a false flag. It certainly looks.
You mean the article Joe did not stack up?
Well, I haven't read your article. I am actually putting it on the you know, the video for people to see here.
If you look on the article, the first thing you see is a Piper Cherokee PA-28. If you look up the specs for the Piper PA-28 is smaller than a Cessna 172. We're talking an airplane that is smaller than a Cessna.
Okay, but what I mean by that, you know, is it's alluding to your initial answer to my question, which is, if it's a false flag, what is a false flag for? And you basically saying they didn't pursue it because there was some kind of screw up within it, right?
Well, because the damage was so disproportionate for the type of plane that hit the building that they couldn't make a story out of it without being immediately called bogus, even by Aunt Edna. With 9/11, they got something where, you know, where Joe's six-pack might go for it. But with that federal building, they had things where a convent would have figured out that thing couldn't have happened the way it did.
Okay.
It just
okay, but let's talk about what is the rationale in doing something like that. If it was an intended false flag, if it was supposed to go in a certain direction, it sounds like maybe a test case that they.
You know, you cannot just automatically open up their heads and know what they were thinking. This is a mistake. This is a logistical mistake. They made a mistake and they buried it.
Okay.
That's all there is to it.
Okay, so as far as it sounds like you, at least in your own investigations, you do not take into account, for example, the secret space programs, the alien agenda, et cetera, et cetera. Is that correct?
Well, I don't go for any of that. I will say that, you know, we probably do have our own spaceships that are way beyond what we're told. We have the Phoenix Lights where... okay, that's really loud. Is there too much interference?
No, we can hear you fine. It's actually not interfering with you.
Okay. I think that people have seen UFO. You know, like the Phoenix Lights. I think those were real. Obviously, we got pictures. They're obviously real. Okay, they were real. We actually had UFOs down in Phoenix. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But then that leaves a question, were they ours or someone else's? I think they were ours. I think that was one of our black projects. I think that we have Starship Enterprise-sized UFOs to blame the national debt on that are in use right now. You know, as far as I think
that's
so.
That's correct. I mean, that's correct based on my whistleblower testimony. We do have Starship Enterprise.
Yeah, I think we do. Honestly, I think we do. And I think that, honestly, all of these quakes in Japan are happening at a depth of 10 kilometers. I don't know if people understand quakes don't usually happen at 10 kilometers. They usually happen at 30, 40, 60, 80 kilometers depth. Why are all these really anomalous quakes happening at a depth of 10 kilometers? Well, I think I have an answer. I think that's how far down into the crust the tractor beam will reach. And I'm going to cut it right there. You know, I don't think that they're using electromagnetic waves to kick off these earthquakes because it doesn't make any sense. Electromagnetic waves are going to interact with ferrous materials. They're going to interact with some of the platinoids. They're not going to interact with silica. You're not going to get EM waves to interact with silica, which is what most of these, what the crust is mostly comprised of. You're not going to get it to interact with ceramics, which most of the metals in the crust have turned into. So somehow we have something other than electromagnetic waves that can have an impact on the material in the crust. It has to be something else.
Okay.
So,
well, I mean, in other words, you don't think scalar weapons can target or trigger a...
I never looked into scalar weapons. All I'm doing is I'm pretty much saying the obvious. It's not EM weapons that are doing this. I don't think HAARP is a weather machine. Everybody blames the earthquakes on HAARP. HAARP is a be-all, catch-all, end-all type system where everything gets blamed on it. But I can't see really where HAARP would set off an earthquake. I can see it would set off a hurricane, beef up a hurricane, yeah. Set off a thunderstorm, yeah. Affect people's mood around the world, of course. But with regard to interacting with a crust and triggering an earthquake, I don't see it.
Okay, well, I have to say that I've actually heard Brooks Agnew, who was involved in the initial, I guess, creation of HAARP, who did some mini experiments and is a physicist, and he was able to trigger mini earthquakes in the area around him using sort of a HAARP-like device. It may have been a kind of a...
This was you're talking about the ground-penetrating radar that hit the nuclear magnetic resonance frequency of certain elements of the crust. I know about that.
Okay.
Maybe, but 10. You get into the wavelength of maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, that's okay. At this point, we're just looking to find whatever evidence you have, whatever investigations you've done, and bringing that forward.
Pretty much what I have is sight. I mean, it's I won't go into the alien thing because
okay.
That can't be proven. I want something where I've got a picture of a reactor that's not there. I want something where we have a tsunami and no earthquake. I want something where get this, type Chile volcano into Google, 2 words, put it in phrases, Chile volcano into Google Images. Do that right now. Chile volcano, Chile volcano.
Okay.
In quotes.
Uh-huh. Right. And we get these certain images. Why? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, do you want to explain?
Now, do you think that normally a volcano looks like that when it goes off? It looks to me like it's Cohen's little toy that can set off a volcano in use right there. The lightning strikes are absolutely phenomenal. There have been lightning strikes in volcanoes before, but not like this. This is just way over the top.
Sure.
If you click on some of those images, I mean, it looks like a scene out of hell going on there.
Right.
It's just absolutely crazy.
It is quite impressive. Okay. We have been having... Let me just ask you, we have been having a number of earthquakes in Chile. Do you think that they're trying to trigger something, and if so, what?
Well, the Great Chilean earthquake that happened in 2010, that was an 8.8 on the Richter scale. That's a pretty big quake. I mean, that's a massive quake. That's a giant. It should have leveled everything. And yet, on the surface, very little damage actually happened in Chile. And it was the Chilean people said, well, that's just because their construction is so good. But I'm going to try to get into a quiet area. I can't hear myself.
Okay, we are able to hear you at this time. I'm putting a picture of the volcano
Okay.
in Chile onto the screen so people can see what a massive explosion there was. It's actually well, it's really impressive.
It's scary. It's downright scary. You look at that, and it's just like there's something wrong. That does not look like something that could happen on this planet. Okay, I gotta go out and get my. Oh, I'm locked in here. Well,
Okay, do you have any idea what, and this is dated June 8th of 2011, the one I'm looking at.
Yes, this just recently happened. Well, one thing that I figured out with these earthquakes coming from this machine is that the damage that is done in these quakes is a full magnitude less than a natural quake. The reason why is because the earthquake machine exerts a very, very smooth, I felt this in Mexico City, very smooth acceleration, to the north, to the south, and to the west. There is no shaking to it. I've been in real earthquakes, even far from the epicenter. When you're in a real earthquake, it rattles. This earthquake in Mexico, which is proven false, was nothing but like a smooth acceleration like you're on a subway. So they pulled the crust one direction, they pulled the crust another direction, they pulled it another direction, didn't fracture anything, didn't get any real vibrations going, but to a seismogram it registered as, a 7.6.
Okay,
the damage that happened in Mexico was not conducive to a 7.6. It was more like something in the low sixes.
Right.
In Chile, the damage that happened from there, 8.8, wasn't like an 8.8. Chile was very well built, but it was still more like a 7. So I think that this earthquake in Chile was probably triggered. But nobody hopped on that one. We don't really have the answer to that. But when this volcano went off, it was right at the peak at that time. They were discussing the ability to trigger volcanoes. It was just like there was a lot of chatter about it, and all of a sudden this thing went off like this. I think this is highly suspicious. If you go back to the main page, we have an article that says, great, NASA knew HAARP caused Katrina. Okay, they turned the volume down. I can go back out. NASA knew HAARP caused Katrina. Got to back out of here. And when you look at that article, I have a link to the NASA website where they have an article called "Electric Hurricanes." So, are you there?
Yes.
Are you there? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Are you talking about the NASA anomalies article? Because
yes.
It says NASA noticed HAARP anomalies in Hurricane Katrina. That one?
It just says NASA knew HAARP caused Katrina. On the homepage, the link from there. Anyway, it should be universal across the site.
Okay, hold on one second, because I want to get the right link here for people. Yeah, the link that I'm seeing on the homepage, at least the one on the right-hand side, reads NASA, let's see, noticed HAARP anomalies in a hurricane Katrina is what you've got there.
Oh,
on that
really?
link. Yeah.
That's then we've got a problem.
Okay.
You're not looking at my website.
Well, okay, this is Jimstone.
You're actually on jimstonefreelance.com?
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me go there just to make sure. Oh, yeah, it says NASA noticed HAARP anomalies in Hurricane Katrina. Click on that.
Right.
Okay, that's the one. Okay. The old headline was NASA knew HAARP caused. If you scroll down, you'll see a picture, a diagram, a theoretical diagram. Nobody actually told you this. Nobody actually showed you this, but it's a theoretical or a very plausible diagram for to explain how HAARP works. Are you there?
Yes.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Are you not able to talk? Are you okay?
I'm getting bothered by a lot. I can't get an ounce of peace.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting it to be this loud.
We can hear you fine, so don't worry
Okay.
about the background noise. Skype is picking you up fine.
Okay, what I want to show you here on that page is I have a diagram here where it's got two transmitters that are on different parts of the globe transmitting a signal that has a phase collision zone in the upper atmosphere. Now, people don't realize this, but silicon, it's a semiconductor. Air is also, it can be caused to act like silicon. And so silicon needs a doping agent, arsenic in the enhancement region, I think, and boron in the depletion region. Okay, it's a long story, but because of the chemicals that are put into the silicon, when you apply a current to the base of a transistor, you will cause a cascade from collector to emitter or emitter to collector, depending upon the type of transistor. Anyway, you'll cause an electron cascade. Well, air is also a semiconductor. And if you cause a phase collision zone of two properly synchronized signals, you will drop a static electric charge into the atmosphere where those two signals are canceling out.
Okay, that's very interesting. When you say you will cause a static electric drop, is that akin to a lightning strike?
It's akin to biasing a transistor to switch it on. The ionosphere would be the power supply that supplies your transistor with its juice. The earth would be the ground to provide the current path. The chemtrails would be the doping agent that you have in your transistor. And then the end result is, because you're causing a current flow from the ionosphere to the ground, you're heating up the atmosphere and beefing up a hurricane. Now, if you click, after looking at that diagram, you click on the link that said they noticed several hurricanes, including Katrina, were not electrically normal. You click on this link and you go in there and you hit this article that says electric hurricanes, dated January 9th, 2006. The boom and thunder and crackle of lightning is generally means one thing: a storm is coming. Curiously, though, the biggest storms of all, hurricanes, are notoriously lacking in lightning. Hurricanes blow, they rain, they flood, but seldom do they crackle. Surprise! During the record-setting hurricane season of 2005, three of the most powerful storms, Rita, Katrina, and Emily, did have lightning, and lots of it, and researchers would like to know why. Well, I think we have the answer.
Okay.
Now, it goes on to explain the electrical readings were totally off whack in these hurricanes. They're having way too much voltage drop across per square meter. And the perfect explanation is a HAARP-like system drawing electricity from the ionosphere, sending it through these hurricanes, to produce all this lightning, and then beefing them up to be bigger than they should be. That was a record hurricane year, and then guiding them in to wherever they wanted them to go.
Okay, so you're talking about how they modify the weather using that process,
yes,
which I think is very good.
NASA caught them red-handed. I mean, it's so obvious in this article. NASA doesn't come out and say it, but 3 hurricanes are unique in history, and Emily was one of them. They're unique in history. They're the only ones that ever had this reading. Why? If hurricanes had these readings before, it would have been referenced in this article. It would have been spoken of. But this is something that's never happened before, and it was such an anomaly that NASA put it on their website.
Okay, but let me ask you, because you've said that another thing that is what you called a semiconductor is silicon, right?
Yes, of
or
course.
Silicon. Okay, but isn't okay? But if you have a volcano erupt doesn't it erupt silica into the atmosphere?
Well, yeah, but that's silica. You're not really talking. That's not pure enough. It's not doped the right
Well, on the
way. Just
contrary, what
silica.
I'm saying here is that if you're creating, it's kind of like a soup that they're creating. Is if there can be an electrical charge triggered or whatever this, in other words, it's possible that this heating, this extra heating, because I believe that volcanoes also can not only can earthquakes trigger volcanoes, but the opposite can happen. So
Yeah,
if you're looking at
I mean,
weather modification and you're talking about this diagram that you've got here that I think is very, very good, you could also use it in the notion that, because what happened at Fukushima was also a volcanic eruption. There were several things going on simultaneously in Japan. A volcano erupted, you had a tsunami or a number of tsunamis, and you had the earthquake. What you have proven is that there was a nuclear component to this, a bomb, obviously. It seems that there was a HARP or some kind of triggering device, right, put into place.
yes. If you go to the main page and you hit mails from Japan, the people in the mails talk about what they describe as a gooey quake, where it does not feel like a normal quake. It didn't have the regular vibration. If you click on mails from Japan, I got lots of mails out of Japan saying that the Japanese people did not view this seismic activity as an earthquake until the news told them it was an earthquake. It's mails from Japan, the true perspective. The Japanese, of all people, should know what a natural quake feels like. And here we go. The very, very first line for the Fukushima quake, the big one that caused the tsunami, they said the initial quake was reported as a 7.2. The epicenter in near Tohoku. This is what the Japanese on the street were reading on their cell phones just after the event. And Tohoku, well, lo and behold, MYG 004, right where the peak seismic reading came out. This is a city. This is not out at sea. Let's see here, and then it said within 24 hours the magnitude was increased to an 8.8, an 8.9, a 9.0, and then it seemed like the epicenter was under debate. Well, you don't move the epicenter of an earthquake. The instruments get it right to begin with. Instruments can be off by percent. They're not off by orders of magnitude, let alone two. They're not off by hundreds of miles when all your sensors are right there on site. They knew exactly where the center of this earthquake was to begin with. And then the media, even the USGS, did not put that quake out in the ocean. They said it with their mouth, but they graphed it inland. The media is the one that put that earthquake out in the ocean. There's absolutely no seismic record to back it up. There's no agency records to back it up. There's nothing to back up an ocean-based quake in this whole, to justify the tsunami.
I understand. Okay, so as far as we've kind of been going all over the map here, there are people asking some questions in the chat. I do want to get to those questions before the end.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that because it's going to be easier for me.
Okay. First of all, I want to ask you about this so-called war between Macau and Rents. What is that war about, and why is that? Why do you factor in that?
Okay. What happened is that Macau decided to post my Fukushima report. As soon as Macau posted the Fukushima report, Rents exploded on Macau, deleted every single article off of his website. Macau and Rents used to be pals. Just out of the blue, Macau posted my Fukushima article, and Rents exploded. Rents did not want that Fukushima article being talked about. For whatever reason, he does not want that talked about, and I can't figure out why. I do not know why.
You don't? Okay, you don't know why? I mean, this is very interesting. Is there an issue? Why? I mean, did you talk to Macau about it, for example?
Well, what happened was initially Rents did post the Fukushima article. He posted it months ago, and a reader of mine captured that and he sent it to me and he said Rents did post this, but he pulled it within 45 minutes. So Rents got orders from somewhere. Rents decided to post this Fukushima report all the way back in May of last year, and he got orders from somewhere to pull it. So whatever happened between him and Macau was because of some order that Rents got, and I don't know what it was.
Okay, but why?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, but let's just pursue this a little, because the reason it matters is because the alternative media is being messed with hugely right now. And if they put these two guys at each other's throat, what is deleting? What is the fact that Macau would post the article and Rents doesn't post it? Why would that trigger Rents into deleting all of Macau's work off of Rents? In other words, the logic, there's no through line in that logic.
I said it like it was. Macau posted the article, Rents exploded, and that was the end of it. Rents divided from Macau. That's exactly how that fight happened. It was cause and effect. Macau posted it, Rents exploded. That was end of the story, and there was no explanation given.
Incredible. Okay, well, it is important, I have to say, because I have back channel information in the past where Rents has actually posted some disinfo about us purposely, and so I do know that he does take orders from certain people, so I'm very interested in this.
Rents was under orders. It has to have been, and this just puts Macau in the limelight. Macau posted it, and Natural News posted it, and Able Danger posted it, and DeGaray posted it, DeGaray.com. All these different, there's over 2,200 mirrors of that Fukushima article on the web. Many people posted it. So it's a lot more well known than people realize.
Okay, let me ask you this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Macau was too much. For some reason, Macau was the one that made Rents really go off.
Very interesting. But what about Ken Adachi? Because I've been sent a lot of information that Ken Adachi says that he had this information and was posting it prior to your work.
Well, I have no idea who Ken Adachi is.
He is the guy who, well, for one thing, he has a website called something like Educate Yourself.
Okay, I don't know, but I know that my very first radio appearance was on Feet to the Fire. That was back in June, I think. And so if his work predates that, well, the Feet to the Fire presentation is the one that really puts my timeline in stone.
Okay, and when did, just for a timeline of sorts, when did Rents pull that article?
It was back in May.
In May of 2011?
Yes.
Okay.
The May after Fukushima.
Right. So it was right after that.
Yes, it was immediately. I guess I could get the date on that, when the Feet to the Fire thing posted. But that's not really that important.
Okay, fine.
It's just important for the word to get out.
Okay. Someone is asking it's sort of a corollary question. What's your relationship with Henry Macau? Do you know him?
Well, what happened is I had a reader in South Korea who knew that the Fukushima report was too difficult for people to understand. And he was a very, very brilliant man. And he sat down and he wrote 1,000-word synopsis about the Fukushima report, summed up pretty much the heart of the message in 1,000 words. And Macau, that's what Macau posted. Macau did not actually post the entire Fukushima report. He posted what my friend in South Korea, the summary, and then linked to the Fukushima report. And then Rents just exploded. I can't.
Okay, and the person that you're referring to, so the question was, what's your relationship with Macau? Did you know Macau?
No, I didn't know anything about Macau. All I know is that my friend Korea knew who Macau was and said, "You got to get your article on that site. You got to get your art." I said, "Well, it's too complex. No one's going to post it like this. You know, it's got to be. I really need a summary written." And he sat down and he spent a long period of time and you know, did a wonderful job.
Okay, and is his information still?
Okay, it says it was released on 3/26 of. Oh, well, wait a second here. Oh, it's been re-released March 13th of 2012. Okay, so that doesn't tie in any kind of a date. But there's YouTube videos that are dated earlier. Anyway, I know that I was on Feet to the Fire in June of 2011.
That's fine. So just out of curiosity, is this man's summary still on Macau's site?
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's still there. You know, I'll hit Macau's site occasionally. You know, I know that he's a real truther, so I've got his link on the top of my, you know, site. You know, I've got to have something there. My site is 100% boycotted. I cannot get an ad agency to put an ad on there. I can't link a PayPal account to it without the PayPal account getting nuked. There is no way for me to get any kind of an income off of this site. They trashed my business over the Fukushima report. Within on June 29th, I got thrown in jail without any explanation, without charges. I got held without a phone call. I was not permitted to call out. I was there for 6 days. Finally, a sheriff came in on another ship, and I told him I never got a phone call, and he gave me a call out. And all I did was call a friend and tell a friend. All I did was call a friend and tell a friend where I was, and within 40 minutes, in the middle of the night, I was released from jail. There was no judge. There was no nothing. I was just released from jail instantly. Well, you know about the anyway. I covered this in the other phone call.
Yes, you did.
The bottom line is that I suffered a lot of persecution over the Fukushima report, and my life is in shambles, and I can't hear myself speak. It's so loud.
Okay, let me ask you this. Did you have any back channel technical advice on Stuxnet? Are you getting any information about Stuxnet from the creators, from any of the techies that have been involved with it?
Well, I'll just say one thing, you know, and it's, you know, they really picked the wrong place to have their powwow. Okay, I might be able to hear you now. Am I still on the air?
Yes, you are. We can hear you fine.
Okay. We have a virus that is specifically designed to go out and tamper with fluid control systems, frequency controlled systems in industry. It's a weapon. It is specifically designed to make it so that industrial processes malfunction and cause catastrophes. It's on the list.
Have you? You know, but the reason, can you hear me at all? Because
you know, I can't hear anything because the yelling and the music is so loud that I can't hear anything.
Okay, I'm trying to ask you whether or not there may be an AI component to Stuxnet, artificial intelligence component.
Oh, well, Stuxnet, when it's in operation in a facility, can sit there in idle mode indefinitely and just report back to the creators every single thing that's assumed because they have that data link going into Fukushima. This proves that this virus can be administered via remote. They wouldn't have had that data link into that facility, you know, unless they're the purpose for it.
Okay, but that doesn't really answer the question about artificial intelligence. Are you familiar with Skynet at all? A group of nano satellites, low Earth orbiting satellites called Project Leonid.
No, there's all kinds of stuff like that, and I don't keep track of it.
Okay, well, do you understand that if Stuxnet can be administered or handled or run by an AI, an artificial intelligence?
Well, Stuxnet is artificial intelligence. It'll go
Okay.
in to that controller and learn everything about that facility, so that when it goes and it blows out, it keeps the control normal, so that the controllers of that facility don't even know that their facility is being destroyed. You know, these technicians and people who run these facilities, they depend upon their sensor readings to. Oh my goodness.
Okay, the site that you chose to do this event, with me at is obviously not conducive.
No, it is not.
But what I'm trying to get at
I
is,
had to make a guess. I had to make a guess because I'm here in Mexico, and I can't I can't predict the future.
okay. I understand. You're borrowing.
Okay.
It sounds like you're borrowing an internet connection, correct?
Well, no, I'm not borrowing an internet connection. This is one that you get when you come in here. It's
well, what I mean is you're not at a home or your own hotel room or whatever kind of thing.
Oh, this is the public. No, I'm at a hostel. That's like a cross between a hotel and it's like a group. Where
I see.
I know people know. I mean, I don't want to go into an explanation of what a hostel is. If you want to go somewhere and stay for cheap and share a room, you get a hostel.
Yeah.
Because and then you meet all these foreigners, these foreign exchange students that come into the hostel. And anyway, that's what this is.
I understand.
And there's an extreme amount of inconsideration. Just I don't know what's.
Okay, well,
Okay.
that's typical. Are you still able to hear me? Because what I'm trying to do and to get at, if you will, is that Stuxnet, yes, you may say it's artificial intelligence in and of itself, but let's say that artificial intelligence can be administered from a higher order of artificial intelligence. In other words, if it's a bomb and it's
Stuxnet is a virus that goes out and reports back to the controllers, and people control it. They decide when to push the button. They decide when to put the control rods in. They decide everything, and then the virus just keeps the control room readouts looking like nothing's happening, and so the place comes apart right in front of the operators, and they don't know why, because all their panel readouts said everything was normal.
Okay, but something also, is Stuxnet able to trigger that thing that you said was a camera that ended up to be a nuke?
Well, that was just that's just part of the data link. They had a separate link to that camera. That's the internet can of multiple things.
Okay.
Camera had nothing to do with Stuxnet.
Well, wait a minute. 1 minute you're saying it can be triggered by Stuxnet, and the next minute you're saying no. I mean, a data link is a data link. But if you say there's a data link, doesn't that imply that there's a relationship, or there could be a relationship?
Obviously, the guy sitting at the desk has the camera readout on one side of his screen and the Stuxnet readout on the other.
Okay, so how are you suggesting that the camera was set off as a nuke?
Because it got the readings confirming that the damage had been done, and that it was now a plausible time to set it off. You can't just, if you've got no mayhem taking place in a facility, you can't just set off something and then have that be believable. You got to have things coming apart. You got to have your turbines winding up. You got to have your steam venting, whatever. You got to have whatever mayhem would explain the situation before you go and you go pull a stuff. Of course, that doesn't really explain reactor 4. I don't know what to say. The question is almost unanswerable.
Okay.
Obviously, they had two readouts. They had one from the camera, and they had one from the virus, and people made all the decisions. That this is a people decided thing. It wasn't some computer sitting there saying, now it's to set off the bomb. Now is the right time for the media. What's CNN saying? What's this group saying? What's that group saying? Okay, now is the time to go boom. We got that reactor at 5,000 psi. We set that bomb off now to get a reactor contributing to the explosion. That's the type of decision. It had nothing to do with artificial intelligence or anything else. It was just your readout and some guy saying this is the right time to do it.
Okay. Are you aware that Stuxnet is considered to be a group virus? In other words, it was created by a group of techies. Have you read the background on how this virus was created?
Well, it specifically was designed to take out Iran's nuclear program. That was the very first job for Stuxnet, was to go in and wreck the centrifuges. They used it too soon. They shouldn't use it when if they wanted that thing to have maximum, they should have set it off or activated it when that reactor was online.
Okay. Do you know that? Are you aware that there were also U.S. Technical, software engineers that have worked on Stuxnet?
I can't hear anything.
Are you aware that? Oh my God.
I can't hear anything.
Wow, that's incredible.
Okay, I heard, wow, that's incredible.
Are you aware that there were American techies that also worked on Stuxnet?
Oh, yeah. This is a CIA Israel type deal, but it's Israel's baby.
Okay. All right.
They're the Israel that use it. They're the ones that got it in there. They're the ones that use it. Stuxnet showed up in Japan shortly after Magna BSP arrived. It showed up about 5 months before Fukushima blew, and it affected a large number of computers there. So Stuxnet, when initially it was only supposed to spread via flash drive, but it hit so many computers in Japan that it's not plausible that flash drive did that. It had to have had a different way of spreading. It was too many computers infected too fast.
All right. Someone wants me to ask you about your Occupy experience.
Okay. Yeah, I went out to Occupy LA because my business had been destroyed. Because the right thing I perceived to do after being anonymously detained and only released after I got a phone call out, the right thing to do was scram. So I scrammed and I headed for the Mexico border and I was stupid about it, and I used the wrong approach and I didn't get across. So I ended up stranded in Southern California for a while. And since I was down there, I figured, Occupy LA's going on, I'll head up there. And because my whole purpose of going to Occupy LA was because I know that they'll infiltrate movements. They go from the inside out. And I knew that was happening at Occupy LA because it's going to happen. So I went up there to document that aspect of it. And lo and behold, the very first night I was there, let's see here, I'm sure I've got that link on the front page here. Oh wow, I don't see it here. It should just say Jim Stone visits Occupy LA. Okay, it's jimstonefreelance.com.
It's there.
It's there. Okay. So I went there, and lo and behold, on the very, very first night, I didn't have a tent. I was sleeping outside. And so if you scroll down past, first of all, it had pictures of what went on there. I took all these pictures. You can obviously see that we're not dealing with some stupid homeless crowd crackheads. We're dealing with yuppies, and that's exactly what Occupy LA was. They had a 20,000 watt solar panel set up. They had a media tent with like 18 PCs. They had a Wi-Fi connection and kids in their tents surfing the web. And the place was just they had a movie projector on at night doing political videos. They had they were getting big screen TVs moved in. They had an act going on the front steps, and the acts were high class. They were really, really good acts. And the message of Occupy LA was, we don't want corporations being all powerful. We believe in God. We don't want this anti-Christian garbage. Seriously, this is something you'll never hear in the media. We don't want genetically modified foods. We want and basically, and obviously the monopoly guy was the villain. Anyway, my whole purpose of going to Occupy LA was to document infiltration, and I got a real treat on the first night there. First night there, at 3 a.m., the sprinklers went off. So I was out in the open, so I got nailed, and I got up, and I had a Canon 60D camera that's real. I mean, I don't know if you know about the Canon 60D, but it's pretty revolutionary camera. Anyway, so I was able to get really, really good shots, and so I woke up by the police.
Okay, are you there? You're breaking up again. Hello? Okay, Jim, so I think we got into a sensitive area. I do have your website picture up here of what you've got, Agent Provocateur. So you were...
Yes, these people followed the police department through the camp, and they did nothing but upset tents, try to spark fights with people. They noticed that I was out taking pictures, and they went after me to smash my camera. And there's a, it's anytime you got a great big meeting like that, there's going to be your charismatic group sitting up all night, things like that. I ran into one of them, and to get protection, they tried to spark fights all over the place, and I just stood up and I started yelling, "These are agent provocateurs. They are here to cause a reason for the police to shut this down. Everybody stay calm and don't let them get you worked up. And don't let them get you fighting. Just stay calm." And I just kept on screaming it. Then other people started passing word. These people are here just start trying to start fights. They're just here trying to start fights. The police are here too. They're trying to, and so this, and so I know that night, it's very probable a disaster was avoided simply because, I basically blew the whistle on what was going on. I know how these people operate. I mean, I'm not an idiot. Okay, I don't want to get into details, but I know how these intelligence agencies operate. If they hate a movement, and another thing, Occupy LA was organized. It was wonderful. It didn't stink. Everything was clean as a whistle. They had the porta potties there. It was extremely well funded. It was extremely well organized. They had a medical tent. They had everything there. And that's the one they went in and busted. Well, I subsequently went out to Washington, D.C., and lo and behold, the one protest that is still alive and still going really is just a homeless camp. Why did they take out Occupy LA? It's because it put a very positive face on the movement. Occupy LA had a reason and a purpose, and they had to take it out. Are you there?
Yep, I sure am. Okay, well, thank you. That's very interesting. And thank you for whoever asked that question. Fascinating information. I'm going down this list of questions here, and we are going to wind this up at some point, but I want to cover a couple more questions. You've been a real trooper. I really appreciate it, Jim, for hanging in there.
I was so disjointed and then so distracted. I just hope that this isn't just a catastrophe.
No, you're very coherent whenever you answer a question, and don't worry about it. I think that it's coming across very well. It's also very revealing is that whenever we cover an area they don't want you to talk about, then you start to break up. Otherwise, it's crystal clear.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
yep.
Let's try to keep it muddy then.
Exactly.
Next question.
All right. Let me see. Someone wants me to ask you about the surveillance equipment, such as microphones, cameras, in televisions, that sort of thing.
Oh, something. I'm going to tell you a story that's going to turn your blood cold. Okay. Now, this is something that's never been spoken of. I encourage people to go to the garage sales and pick scientific cable TV boxes that were issued in the 80s. The old ones from the 1980s and early 90s. If you take apart those boxes and you look right where the remote control is, you will find that those boxes had a microphone and that remote control sensor is really The reason why those cable boxes are so freakishly expensive is because every single one of them had a microphone and a camera in them. They all had a microphone and a camera in them.
You're saying since the 80s. Since the 80s.
It's been around since the 80s. Ever wonder why those boxes had like 120 channels and you only got to use 40 of them?
Yes.
The rest of them were for the cameras to look into the people's homes. That's how
I believe you. I tore mine out because I looked at the cable. There's a cable that was connected to it that was so thick that didn't make any sense.
Anyway, that is people don't realize how bad. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of this is something that he specifically told us at the NSA. They said, ever since the beginning with these landline phones, when you hang them up, these are the old ones that would ring, and the original touch-tone phones that were not like your cordless phones. Anything that plugged directly into the phone line had a full-time microphone into your house since the beginning of freaking time. And they were very specific about this. When you hang that phone up, it is not hung up. And anyone down the line, if they pick up and they want to listen to what's going on in your house, they can do it. And they were so specific about this during our training. You never, ever, ever talk about anything sensitive around one of these phones, because when they're hung up, they're not hung up.
Okay, well, because you're talking about prior to the creation of cell phones, right?
Yes, prior to the creation, all the way back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, those phones were a perfect wiretap into every single home.
Incredible.
When you were hung up, those things, that microphone was still connected and still sending the signal to the phone company.
Okay, so for the people that think it's only started because you got cell phones,
It's been going on since the beginning of time.
Incredible. Okay, anything else? One of the things I've been reading about lately, and I was very aware of on a as an intuitive, is street lights. I'm just really aware that they have cameras in them. Have you been told anything about that?
I wouldn't worry about that. That's just, Joe's got a security camera on his house. I never really went into that. It just, a camera outside the house is nothing like one in your cable.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about street lights, so that they are actually filming you regardless. In other words, they are putting cameras at stoplights and that sort of thing, but people don't realize they're also in street lights.
Well, the ones that, I don't know anything about ones in street lights, but the ones that are at the lights, I tell you.
I'm sorry?
Those things are really clear. The ones that are at the stoplights are really, really clear. They're not going to let you see how clear it was. I mean, you see how clear the pictures are that came out of Fukushima. They're on the site. It's the same kind of a difference. They'll show you something blurry to make you not afraid of that camera, but the reality is that all those cameras are really good.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us about surveillance before I ask you some questions that go off that topic?
Well, take the battery out of your cell phone. If you want to discuss anything private, get into a vehicle that does not have OnStar. Any GM vehicle, I'd say 1997 and newer is probably bugged. Any other car that's 2004 and newer is bugged. That's the cutoff year. They all have bugs. They all have their the ECM connected.
Okay,
you want to have the conversation. This is something I will say that probably isn't specified, and we were specifically told this in the NSA. If you want to have a private conversation, you get into a car and you go for a drive. That's the way to do it. They can't do anything with that. I know that's exactly why it was mandated in 2004 that all these cars have a microphone that can be turned on and listened to. And if you have a car that's 2004 and newer, that is a reality. That's a positive. If you want a private conversation, go out in a 1972 Toyota and go for a cruise.
Okay, an old car. Yeah, we've heard that actually.
And your iPod and everything else at home.
Right, absolutely. Anything else that comes to mind, again, regarding surveillance?
That's pretty much it. Basically, it's a lot worse than you think, and it's been going on a lot longer than you think. They've been getting feedback from the people so they can guide this nation right down the toilet at a record speed. They've been getting this feedback for years, a lot longer than people realize.
Okay. And my understanding is they can also watch you through your computer camera, just FYI.
Of course. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Of course. I'm not going to talk about that. Pointless.
Why not?
It's pointless.
Okay.
Put tape over your webcam and unplug it too. It's that bad.
Right. Okay. Let's see. What about your research into antidepressants? Somebody is asking.
Okay, this is I got out of that subject because some of that, and I don't know if you realize this or not, but I could GlaxoSmithKline website and got a whole bunch of classified information about the antidepressants, and it wasn't just theirs. They were like trying to compare themselves to Eli Lilly and the damage that Eli Lilly stuff did in relation to their stuff. Anyway, it was the documents are pretty good, and I said I was going to post them, but the problem is there's 230 megs. They're extremely cryptic. They're really hard to understand. And so it's like,
well, can you sum it up? What is it you found out?
These drug companies know that antidepressants destroy. They know that they cause brain damage. They know all of this right from the get-go, and they buried it. And the FDA knows they buried it, and the FDA approved it anyway. It's the antidepressant scam is so huge. They're ineffective at curing depression for the most part. I mean, I've heard of some people saying, "Oh, Zoloft did me wonders," but the thing is when people come off these drugs, they're damaged. And to cover this, just click on the link, Antidepressant Nightmare. I've got a graph there that shows what the antidepressants actually do. Oh, that's the wrong antidepressant. Oh, wait a minute here. There's a problem here. That antidepressant nightmare is supposed to be an article. I got to fix that. Oh, no, it's prescribed deletion. It's the first one on top. Okay, it's the article called Prescribed Deletion.
Okay.
What the antidepressants do, I've got a really, really nice graph on that page. And this is a well-researched out graph. It's actually a doctorate of pharmacology produced a really bad graph that was like, it wasn't pretty. And then I produced a really, really pretty graph based upon his graph. Okay, so that's what's here. What happens with these antidepressants is they block the reuptake of neurotransmitters. And so your brain, when it produces it's supposed to be reuptaken, and if it doesn't get reuptaken, your brain stays at a certain level. It's a long story. Just look at the graph. It's too hard for me to explain. The bottom line is that once these SSRIs take full effect, they are like a full-time ecstasy high. The only reason why you don't realize that you're getting hit as hard as you are with ecstasy is because your brain has been clipped out for so long that it's stopped overreacting to the overstimulus. So you just kind of flatline. Well, when you look at, and I don't have this covered, but I've got the corkscrewed axons and all this other stuff. The damage that antidepressants cause is very similar to the damage that ecstasy causes, and it's very similar to the damage that people suffer when they work in paint booths without a mask. On this article here,
when they work, I'm sorry, they work at what kind of booths?
I didn't hear you.
They work at what kind of booths?
They boost your the input in your brain so high that it's like a full-time ecstasy high. Oh, paint booths. Paint booths.
What are you talking about? What's that?
The brain. If you have some guy painting cars and he doesn't wear a respirator and he does it every day of his life from dawn till dusk, that's the type of damage that the antidepressants cause.
Oh, paint. I see.
The brain damage.
Guys. Yes.
The brain damage is identical.
Wow.
Now, I don't have that portion of the article complete, but I've got all that research done, and it's just a matter of I can only get so much stuff done. My life is in chaos right now. These articles take a long time to produce because I've got to get them done in such a way that a doctor can cross-reference them or an engineer can cross-reference them and they'll check out. I do not want to produce a whole bunch of aliens in the closet garbage. I don't want that on this site. I want this stuff to be so that people can go there and reference it and have it be truthfully accurate and perfect. And so those types of articles take a long time to produce. It's not like you can just rattle them out. They're hard to do.
Okay. Thank you for that.
So right now I'm kind of incomplete on the prescribed deletion article because it's actually going to have 6 different segments, and the only segment I've completed is the testimony segment.
I see. Yes. Okay. Well, people can revisit that later. Now, I've got one person asking, just to go back a step here. Is there a way to disconnect any of this, the technology, the surveillance technology, other than the obvious, which is covering the computer camera with tape and paper or whatever? Which, by the way, I have to warn you, if you do that, they actually cut out.
The only way you're going to do that is to drive an old pickup truck, never have a cell phone, never have an iPad, never have anything like that. That's the only way you can get away from it. All this stuff is bugged. Everything is bugged all the way through. It just, there's, and it sounds paranoid, but the thing is it's true. And they come out and they announce it. I mean, it's not just me talking. I've got to find a power outlet. So I've normally got a 5-hour battery, but for some reason this thing died.
I just wanted to let people know, as far as if you block your computer camera, if you do it in a certain way, you actually block the sound out. Suddenly you're going to start having audio problems, believe it or not, because the camera somehow is linked to the audio. Don't ask me how. And what I noticed is as long as you put something with a kind of a flap that's loose and still covers it, it works.
I have no idea about any of that.
Well, I've done it.
I haven't. I have no idea about any of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
That's just not something I've looked into.
I appreciate that. Okay. Let me see. Well, the person is asking about the Bluffdale data center. We did cover that in our prior.
Yeah, that one that's going into Utah. Yeah, we talked about that. It's a disaster. In short, I'm getting plugged into power right now, so I'm out in the noisy area again. Okay. That Bluffdale Center is right on an internet backbone. One thing that people don't realize, Utah is like Silicon Valley too, especially for software. WordPerfect came out of Novell came out of there. A lot of these game companies came out of there. Utah is really a major tech center, and when they got the internet put into that place, Internet 2, George Bush Jr. had this Millennium Project. He called it the Millennium Project, and it was a project that was used to put Internet 2 into place, and Utah was an area chosen to get basically the test run for this. They put fiber optic lines in Utah to every single home in the city of Provo, and when these lines, this is a city that I was in at the time, so I mean I'm familiar with that city. When these lines went to the house, it was crazy. You would think that your house gets a fiber optic line and it gets it, and then that's it. Next fiber optic line, it was terminated, and they didn't really hook this stuff up yet, but each house got like 100 fibers. That's the type of internet they put into Utah. They put in a psycho internet in Utah. And what this means is that NSA data center is sitting right on top of all of this infrastructure that is specifically designed to be able to funnel everything in the country through it. On top of that, they got a really, really good educated technical base there in the population. Mormons are extremely compliant. They have the church, what do they call it? It's like the basic tenets of the religion. One of the tenets of the religion of Mormonism is to obey the government.
Yeah,
it's there.
Absolutely. Big time.
And so when that is written into your religion, oh my goodness. And you've got a whole bunch of compliant, intelligent, pliable people that are honest. Oh my goodness. That they couldn't have put that NSA data center in a worse place for the country. They've got major throughput, major bandwidth, and a population that's absolutely perfect for it. So that's my 2 cents about that. I think it's pretty much adios. And every single one of those people out there they're good people. They're not evil at all. They're going to be doing their job the best that they can because they really are fighting the terrorists. It's just a nightmare.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see. There's a question here about, do you have any info on Kaspersky Labs' investigation on the Stuxnet coders?
I know I quoted, I did a lot of reading about Stuxnet to see, in the beginning, and that sounds vaguely familiar. Basically, all I know about Stuxnet is the fact that it goes into a system, it learns it, it can be used to wreak havoc. My own study proved, or very, very strong, that there's a remote control aspect to it where they can control that virus from abroad. And also, I strongly suspect that flash drives are no longer the only way that virus. Beyond that, it's a catastrophe. I'm sure it's into a majority of the U.S. nuclear plants. I'm sure that's why we're having so many troubles now, and that one in California is shut down. There's really, why on earth did we go through 40 years of nothing since 3 Mile Island, and all of a sudden we got all this garbage going on now?
Right.
Any
Very
sense
interesting.
all the one year? No sense at all.
Okay.
We've got to have a major problem.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it possible that these nuclear power plants had a built-in obsolescence? Because that's what it begins to look like.
Actually, okay, I've worked in industry considerably, very much, for a long, long time. None of those industrial systems have a built-in obsolescence. Once you get basically the root of the system together, the only obsolescence is the electronics and the fact that you came up with something better. You can take a lathe that was made in the 1800s, hook it up to, as long as its bearings and stuff are intact, you can hook it up to your oh God, what do they call it? Oh my goodness, I can't believe I forgot it. There's a program that they can hook these old lathes and milling machines up to modern controllers that put them fully automatic mode, and they function just like something that was produced yesterday. That's the way industrial equipment is. It's built extremely robust so that it lasts forever.
Okay.
A lot of these industrial systems, there is no planned obsolescence. There really is not.
Okay, so it needs a trigger.
That doesn't exist in industry. That stuff lasts for as long as you can possibly use it.
Okay, I appreciate that. So basically it needs a trigger.
It needs a trigger. There's no, I actually, in the other radio interview I spoke about that I interviewed the engineer from, okay, I'm gonna change modes here. Brown's Ferry is based on the boiling water reactor design, and it's a slightly less robust setup than Fukushima was. Has the exact same reactors that are out of Fukushima, and they have been certified like 2027 now, or 2031. They went through and they certified those reactors safe a couple of years ago for the next 30 or 40 years. That's the way industrial systems are. As long as you do the maintenance on them, they're as good as gold for as long as you want to keep them.
Okay, interesting. So the implications are vast in terms of what is actually going down with these with the
Yes,
various
the
nuclear.
reason why we're having the troubles is because there's some sort of interference going on. There's some kind of sabotage going on. There's no other reason for us to be having all these troubles.
Okay, and what is your understanding in terms of the robustness in the face of added earth changes such as volcanism and earthquakes?
Well, I mean, we just get down to whether or not the environment destroyed it. It just, I don't know how to expound on that. If you have a great big fault line open up underneath a nuclear plant, it's finished.
Okay. Well, because as it happens, a lot of nuclear plants were built at what are called vortexes, where the grid lines intersect, and that's often a place. There is often a place where earthquakes.
I don't buy that. I don't believe in the grid lines. I was an astronomy buff, and all that stuff would have been covered, and this is just a whole bunch of booga booga that's come up in the last 20 years. I don't believe in that.
Okay.
I won't put that out to play.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting. I have some very interesting research along those lines, and I beg to differ with you in that regard. But we'll have to sort of.
I just, well then just call me totally ignorant on the subject, and I'm not going to go there because I know nothing about that.
I hear you. Okay, someone is asking, and we will wrap this up, but someone's asking what happened to your conversion to Judaism?
Well, it turned out that I got accepted for the most part. I mean, really, really closely accepted. I went through the high holidays, and I had heard about the Kol Nidre prayer, but let me tell you, the Jewish community is a very, very nice community within their own ranks. They know how to treat each other. And when I went into that community, sure, there was talk of getting control of things, but it was kind of like under the surface. And so I went along with it, and then finally it came time, and I never saw this evil prayer book with this Kol Nidre in it. It came down to the high holidays, and high holidays are a paid event. I think I paid something like $250 to the synagogue to attend, so they're not free to get into to begin with. It kind of discourages outsiders. Well, I was given the real book, and I saw the book that they give like average people who decide they want to attend anyway. I was given the real book. I got to see the real prayer, and it basically says that all vows, all contracts, all promises that I make are basically null and void the moment I make them. And because I am saying this in front of God at this time, I'm not going to keep my promises this year. And I'm forgiven for the promises that I didn't keep last year. I was mortified by that because it was just like, here you got these people that are supposed to be good, and got this prayer, this like an oath to evil. It's just like unbelievable. And so that kind of got my ankles up. Well, and I kind of let it slide because I didn't see any other indications, but lo and behold, soon enough, I had a little falling out with somebody in my synagogue, and I mean just for a day, and I went over to a Sephardic synagogue across the street. They really liked me there because, it's a long story, but they really liked me there. They accepted me a lot sooner than the Ashkenazis did. And so I got to see a real Jewish service. Whenever you go to a Jewish service, they're going to say at the beginning of the service, "Are there any guests?" And they're all friendly, and if you're a guest, you're going to jump up. Yay, I'm SpongeBob. You're going to do that. And so then they know that this guy is not one of us. And so all of a sudden, the content, what they cover is different. And this synagogue that I attended, Shari Tefillah, in Montreal, I mean not in Montreal, in Vancouver, they actually messed up their services for a full year and a half. I was out in Montreal before that. They had a rabbi there to teach me. I didn't realize that they're actually paying him to be there for me. They never told me that, but that's just the way they operate. They will do nice stuff in the background and not even tell you if it's for something like for the Jewish community. So anyway, I went over to the Sephardic synagogue. I had their trust a lot sooner. Call went, they had a special speaker coming in. They weren't expecting me to be there. And the call went out, do we have any visitors? And I didn't know what to think. I'd been through the high holidays. I didn't raise my hand, because I figured, I'm far enough along now. I'm not a visitor anymore. I've been here forever. And one of the guys said, well, yeah. And another guy said, no. And then the guy said, yeah, well, he's a visitor. No, he's not. No, he's not. And then the consensus, no, he's one of us. He's one of us. He's one of us. And then I got to see a real Jewish service. That speaker started speaking. And he just went right on down the line. We've got control of the medical. We've got control of the government. We've got control of the media. We've got control and extremely disproportionate influence in all these areas. We need to use our extremely disproportionate influence to make everything go a Jewish way so that we can have blah, 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 our future, our domination. I was so upset by that, I was mortified. I was like, I couldn't believe it. Here I finally am not a guest, and this is what I see. After spending a year and a half with these really nice people, I get this pep rap. It's a violation of 501c3. You're not supposed to do the politics like this in a church. You're not supposed to have war planning in a church. And here they are. They're doing this in their synagogue once they know that they don't have any outsiders. And I was like, it took me 2 years, 6 months out in Montreal and a year and a half here to see this. And I was like, oh my God, they are going to filter. No one gets to see this.
Right.
And I was, and if I had been less emotional and more level-headed, maybe I should have attended more meetings and things like that, but that's just not the way it went. I was so appalled and angered at what I saw that I just quit going. And I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have, but that's exactly,
wow.
That's the end of it.
That's fascinating.
Believe me, Renz has got, Renz may have blown off the Fukushima report, but he's got some pretty, and David Duke, another one. I mean, the stuff they say is real. The stuff they say is real. It just, I learned after the fact, after seeing all this stuff, I was able to think back and assemble it all, but it really, really took getting hit in the head and really, really seeing, what their real agenda is for it to really all stick. Because they are such nice people. They are so nice. Right. When you're one of them and you're among them, I mean, they are wonderful people. And okay. Then, but outwardly, oh my goodness, you have to watch out.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. I've got somebody asking, do you know anything about an orbiting robot plane?
Oh, I'm sure they've got toys. I mean, I think I think an orbiting robot plane would be kind of irrelevant when I really think that those.
I think UFOs a drone. Well, I would say a drone is really another way of framing that.
Well, they drew up plans for a nuclear powered drone that could stay aloft for months. The drone is kind of irrelevant when it's pretty well proven they've got their UFOs. It's just like, I think the drones are the face that we can see, and they've got a separate total layer set up that we're not supposed to see and not supposed to know about.
Well, that's Skynet and Project Leonid. Project Leonid, just so, in case you want to look it up, is available on the internet as a public program of nanosatellites. What their true purpose is, and the fact they're run by AI, and the AI can defend itself and be replicated as well. And the way it's replicated, just for the person who wrote in questioning that, is by going up to the mother, and that's what the sort of AI the upper level of Skynet is what the nanosatellites report to is something called Mother. I got that from several sources.
I haven't really paid attention.
Okay. Well,
Just,
that's all for some of your future research,
okay,
Jim.
this major breakups, I can't hear a thing.
Okay, well, I'm not surprised. Okay,
Okay, so something must have been said that they didn't.
Yeah, I can assure you that's true.
There's no reason for this to be flaking out. It's not like I'm moving around the antenna.
I hear you. Okay, we're going to shut this down now. We've been going for a little over 2 hours, and I want to thank you very much for being as patient as you have been with the breakup in technology, breakdown in technology, and everyone else for listening and hanging in there in our audience. Thank you for your good questions. It's been a pleasure. And thank you so much, Jim Stone. I hope that we can tap into your research in the future, and please do stay in touch, okay?
Yes. One point that I want to make is, and I really didn't get onto it enough, is that they have the ability to totally fake 2012. Furthermore, they made a major blunder down there in Mexico. They handed us a bag of knives with that, where we could just literally cut them limb from limb. That quake in Mexico, standing proof right there, that they can trigger quakes. It goes... Uh-oh. Are you there?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, well, I'm just going to talk then. I don't know how well you can hear me. But we need to spread the word and drive the issue home that we know that they're messing with the climate, we know that they're messing with the planet, and that they're not going to get away with it in some stupid false flag 2012 scenario, which I don't believe in. My astronomy background never had anything about this. The galactic alignments and planetary alignments is all a bunch of garbage. I don't believe in it. And if they can, it doesn't matter what the truth is, if they can make people believe that some Mayan calendar can cause a catastrophe, they will use that. And then they will cause a catastrophe.
Okay, thank you so much, Jim Stone, and please do take care, and let's stay in touch. And I'd love to hear from you, whatever you're involved in.
Next time I probably won't be so disjointed, but this is kind of like an emergency fix to get online this time, and it was difficult.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for hanging in there, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Okay, everyone, thank you very much for listening. Please do tune in to my radio show on American Freedom Radio tomorrow night. And I will be talking to Mel Fabregas, and on Friday I'm going to be talking on a new radio show, which is a new edition at 7 p.m. Pacific time, and I'll be talking to David Sereda about the secret space program and many other things. Thank you so much for listening.
Another reason why they won't show you this picture. If you've looked around the web and you've really kept on top of the Fukushima issue, one question is why on earth, if these pictures that I have here have existed since March 20th, why haven't they shown these to the public? What are they trying to cover up here? The reason why they're not showing these to the public is because they blow the official story away. You cannot have temperature and pressure readings and stuck valves on a reactor that doesn't even exist. And this virus that fakes normal temperature and pressure readings, it's called the Stuxnet virus. It was used to take out Iran's nuclear program as well. Fortunately for Iran, they didn't have a functioning reactor at the time, but it caused mayhem in their reactor systems. It wrecked several centrifuges. But they were able to recover from it because they figured out what was going on. There's the next picture that I want you to hit. It says Fukushima from the top. And there's a very, very important point here also. Reactor 4 had been defueled and was not in operation when it exploded. And the media and a lot of the alternative media got on the bandwagon, and they said, well, that just means that they're using reactor 4 to enrich plutonium, and it wasn't shut down at all. Well, this picture, which they're refusing to show anyone, if you look on the upper right-hand corner, there's a hold on, I got to get this so I can scroll it. So I can read it. If you look here, it said TEPCO stated that reactor 4 was defueled and had no core in it. It was undergoing replacement of its internal shroud. I said all the wackos because really that's what it amounts to. Said it was enriching plutonium because it blew up. This picture clearly shows, and the first arrow points to the reactor dome. It's sitting in the service area with the jib from the service crane attached. In other words, there's something they attached to the dome so that the crane could pull it off the reactor. That device, which they attached to the dome so that the crane could lift that dome off the reactor, is attached to that dome. And no one snuck into that facility later and put that on there with the radiation readings the way they were. This is the way that thing was set up when it exploded. This proves that reactor 4 could not possibly have been in operation when it exploded. Picture number 2, you can look straight down the throat of the empty reactor. There is no core in this reactor. TEPCO said that there was a lining on the inside of the reactor that they had to replace, a stainless steel lining. In America, what they'll do is they'll weld these, they'll get stress cracks in them, and they'll weld them, and they'll stick them back inside the reactor. Compartmentalized clearance. I had a lot more access than most. My education was at a very, very high level. To the point where I was 200 for the type of individual I was in the NSA, which means that well beyond the people that listen to Morse code and run the sonographs and things like this, I was well beyond that. And so I have a really, really solid technical background.
Okay.
So, and then,
are you able to hear me at all?
it's very, very, it breaks up a lot, and it just seems like it's hit and miss.
Okay, I'm going to try one other thing over here because I've got more than one program going on.
So if I'm clear, then we could probably just cut to the Fukushima thing, and I'll just start talking.
Okay, yeah, it's going to be a little strange if you can't hear me, but we'll try it this way. Go ahead.
Okay, well, if you go to my website, it's jimstonefreelance.com. I have all the links that I'm going to be referencing on the front page. What we have here with Fukushima and with the Japan quake, also there's another article on my website done by another investigator. His name is Joe Vials with regard to the Indonesia tsunami, and also there's another article on my website with regard to the Mexico quake. We have 3 events here which are pretty obviously man-made. And one of the main points that I want to get across is that people come down to the whole idea of terrorists doing terror attacks. About false flag terror in the name of like Arabs or in the name of a nutcase or vice versa. People caught on to the whole false flag thing, and so the elite switched modes. They wanted when they stage disasters, they wanted to have the effect that they want on the public. So they have entered a new era of warfare and false flag terror, which involves the environment. A lot of people think Katrina was harped up on my website. I have an article on that front page linked on the right sidebar where it says a published article called Electric Hurricanes, talking about all the strange electrical readings inside Katrina. Then we have the Japan quake, which actually maxed out at a 6.67 on the Richter scale, producing the tsunami of a 9.0. We had a Mexico quake that happened on the 20th that coincided perfectly with an earthquake drill that matched the exact same scenario. So what we have now is, and it's especially important to know this going into the 2012 thing, the elite definitely have a way to trigger earthquakes. This is covered in a briefing by Defense Secretary Williams Cohen. So that's the point and the route that I want to go down. Let's just get started. I'm going to go to my page here so I can help you through the links.
Okay, so give people the URL if you can hear me. It is
Yep.
JimStoneFreelance.com.
JimStoneFreelance.com. JimStoneFreelance.com. And the very first thing I want you to click on as a first link is Vanished Reactor. You'll have a little diagram of the Fukushima and how it's set up. And then to the right of that, we can see the destroyed reactor. As you can see from the graphs that I presented on the site, and there's actually one that's a little bit more clear than that. If we go back and you click the link on the front that says Fukushima, right at the very top, it's a big bold link that says Fukushima from the front. If you click on that, you'll get a high-resolution picture of Fukushima. And then expand that link. Expand the picture so you can see it. As you can see, they've been talking about temperatures and pressures from reactor 3, and reactor 3 is gone. What we have here, what happened was it happened as a malfunction. Oh gosh, I need to pull back here. Gosh, for some reason I lost this time. If we go
Okay.
you need to hit that first picture again and scroll all the way down to the bottom. There is a security firm hired to do security at Magna BSP. At Fukushima called Magna BSP. They were operating out of Israel, and they got into Fukushima cameras that were exactly the size and shape of gun-type nuclear weapons. They split for Fukushima. They split for Israel a week before Fukushima happened. They acknowledged in the Jerusalem Post that they had a full-time connection into the reactor rooms of Fukushima. These cameras, the disaster, and they could act at will. Knows anything about nuclear facilities that you're
This is Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and we are talking to Jim Stone. Jim is going to give his own introduction as to who he is, other than to say that I have done a radio show with him previously. He is an NSA whistleblower, and we are having some connection problems as usual. Apparently, there are some interference, but we are going to try to prevail here, and perhaps things will get better as we go along. Right now, your video is working, Jim, so why don't you go ahead and say hello to everyone.
Hi, I'm Jim Stone, and I guess I've been called an NSA whistleblower by several people. It needs to be kind of cleared up because I don't actually work for the NSA anymore, so I really can't be a whistleblower in that sense. I'm really good at finding problems in things. I know how to study things out, and that's pretty much what my NSA background is. That's all it can really add up to as far as I don't have an inside track with anything as far as the NSA goes. I've been away from them for over a decade. What I really got from the NSA was the ability to troubleshoot out problems in just about any system. And after working for the NSA, I went into industrial electrical, the PLCs and the automated control systems, and I worked with industrial processes that were similar to what you would have in a nuclear plant with the cooling pumps and things like this. And because of that, I knew that Fukushima was impossible. And I started looking for answers, and I came up with quite a few.
Okay, but can you at least give, because some of the people listening now will not know your background at the NSA, and just so you understand the Camelot, definition of whistleblower, we talk about whistleblowers as being whistleblowers from the Matrix, telling the truth on what's really going on.
Okay, well, I guess he's...
You would qualify in that regard.
Okay, well... Okay, things are really, really breaking up, so I can't really hear what you're saying, so I'm just going to have to kind of guess. In the NSA, I worked in electronic warfare. I was one of the very top people. Obviously, everybody in an agency like that has a to publish, and they got the reactor room right next to the reactors. Were able to detect radiation. They were able to detect the heat. They were able to detect the status of that reactor. Now, oh my goodness, this is not.
Okay, are you having trouble hearing yourself, or what's going on at your end?
Well, I can have presentation.
I'm sorry?
The other program. I'm just having troubles here. So,
You're having trouble with your website? Are you talking about that? Jim, can you hear me? Okay, it looks like we might have lost the connection with Jim. The suggestion is to turn off the video. Hold on a second. Hi, Jim.
okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
If
we decided that if the video starts taking too much bandwidth, then just turn it off at your end. There will be more bandwidth for the sound.
It isn't the bandwidth. It's the issue that a very strong connection keeps dropping to zero. I don't know what the deal is here. It's really
okay. Well, this is kind of
really a distraction. Okay, the main point that I want to make with the whole Fukushima issue is are you there?
Yes.
Okay. If you look at the picture that says Fukushima from the front, and you look at this reactor that's no longer there, I have a big paragraph up here that says one very important point. Reactor 3, which is obviously missing, is still giving normal temperature and pressure readings to the control room. This would not be possible absent a controller that was infected with Israel's precious Stuxnet virus, which keeps all readouts normal both until and after everything is destroyed or blown away. This